This is the I'm Possible Project show, where we interview real people who have achieved incredible feats in the face of overwhelming odds, showing that impossible is just a state of mind and that anything is possible. I'm your host, Joshua Rivedal. Today, in episode 26, A Schizophrenic Secret World, I talked to August Fisenmeyer. Let's jump right in.
Today, I'm with August Fisenmeyer, and she is a writer, blogger, and social media manager from Georgia. She studies English at the University of North Georgia. While writing about her experiences with mental illness is a valuable coping skill, she hopes to raise awareness as well. The Mighty, The Odyssey, and Thought Catalog are a few of the websites where her writing has appeared. And actually, friends, she also appears in our second I'm Possible book, Changing Minds, Breaking Stigma, Achieving the Impossible, which will be out August 23, 2017. Stoked about that. She's got a great story in there. In her free time, August loves to go to bookstores and eat ice cream. I hope there's a bookstore that has ice cream at the same time. That would be amazing. Her latest project is a collection of poetry on Wattpad called Sinking into Psychosis. You can also find her at Survival is a Talent, her personal blog. Ladies and gentlemen, August. August, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's so good to have you here.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am well. Well, I know this because I've gotten a chance to know you just very briefly through some of your writing, which is fantastic. That's how I initially found you as one of our authors. And so I've gotten a chance to know you a little bit. But for my benefit and for the benefit of our listeners, I would love to know a little bit more about you, your background, your life, where you've been, where you're going, the full August experience.
Okay, I don't know. I've always been a writer, always written about my life. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 15, and then I was hospitalized at 19 for psychosis, and that was 2 years ago, and everything has just been kind of uphill from there, getting back into society, getting a job, getting back in school, and things are going really good right now.
That's awesome. I'm glad things are going well, because those certainly are not easy obstacles to overcome and things to live with. I live with depression, and I wasn't really diagnosed till like 26, 27, having no clue as to how to deal with that. That was not very helpful. Well, first of all, I'm curious about the writing piece. How did that come about? How have you always been a writer? Like, you were writing like at the age of like 6 months, and you just picked up a quill. Like, I can see this like, cool prodigy moment. How did you come to that? What does it do for you?
In third grade, like, we were given a writing assignment, and I wrote like an entire story, and my teacher told my mom she's a really good writer or whatever, and I don't know, I just naturally journaled and did diary entries, and in 8th grade I got a perfect score on a writing test, a state writing test. It just gradually, my confidence grew, and I began to write like every day or every other day, and then I was trying to write, books, and I don't know, writing is just kind of how I make sense of the world around me. It's just a part of who I am.
Writing is, it'll do that. And it sounds like you had someone early on who nurtured you and said, hey, this kid's got a little something going on here, which is amazing, which is incredible, because we all need that. And it's cool that you found that, like, you found something you were good at when you were young and that something you like to do. And then you got that little nudge like, oh, I might be good at this. Somebody thinks I've got, even you third grade. I mean, what an impression.
Yeah, there were a few people who said like, oh, you're not a good writer, oh, you should stop, but it's just, you have to do what you think is best for yourself, to filter out the negative and listen to the positive.
Yeah, and if there's any negative, is it constructive? Is it constructive criticism? Is it constructive criticism veiled underneath somebody not knowing how to talk? Because I've been a writer for, 8-10 years, something like that, and plays and musicals and books and stuff. And sometimes people mean to give you constructive criticism, but comes out really ridiculous and kind of negative. And so kind of putting that away and putting ego aside for a moment, because it's hard as a writer, as a creative artist, to have someone say something negative that doesn't sound like constructive criticism. So, but it sounds like, you're moving forward. You're studying English. You've got your blog. You're in our book, and so you're moving forward with your writing career, which is great. With your depression and your diagnosis and your psychosis, How has writing, how has creativity, how has that complemented or helped or hurt? What is it done in that context? What has it done for you, having been diagnosed and then going through psychosis? Has writing helped? Has it been a hindrance? Has it been XYZ?
It's definitely helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely helped. A lot of my therapists have told me, "Oh, you should write down your symptoms and whatever." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'm already doing that." And it really did help. And there were times when I was going through psychosis and I was hallucinating and going, experiencing delusions, and the only thing that would get me through it would be the thought that maybe I could write a story about it, or reframing it as looking into my life from an outside perspective and being what is going on right now, and looking at my life with a curiosity, what's going to happen next. So that's kind of how I dealt with it, by making myself into a character kind of in my writing.
I really like that. I think there's something really special about that. First of all, I think I'm just trying to distill this a little bit. Well, even before the first of all, it reminds me a little of Paulo Coelho and the way he writes sometimes. Well, he'll kind of insert himself into these stories, and they're amazing stories, amazing books. He's a Brazilian writer, Alchemist, Pilgrimage, a bunch of others, and but the scenarios and the situations are heightened. They're a little fantastical and all that, but there's a real cool element to that. And I think that's a really fun way to do things, just as a literary device and a way to kind of move the story forward or what have you, and also kind of a way to write what you know in a certain sense. But I think it also is kind of cool, it gives some perspective to what's going on in life. And I would think, and maybe you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I would think it also helps to cultivate empathy for yourself. Because some of us, I think a lot of us, and I can really only speak for myself because of my own experience, but with my depression, sometimes I'll get down on myself. And even now, better, you should this, you need to do that, which isn't helpful.
Yeah.
And pulling yourself out and kind of having this helicopter view with the way you're writing, do you think it does add a sense of empathy? What does it do for your life?
I do, definitely, because, especially when I'm psychotic or having an anxiety attack, one of the number one symptoms, or one of the number one ways that people see me as, is just irritable or in a bad mood. And I get mad at myself and think I'm a bad person. No one wants to be around me. I'm cranky. I'm moody. But when I write it down and I talk about, my hallucinations, my delusions, my anxiety, my depression, I'm able to look at myself and think, this girl is struggling, give her time, give her, empathy, like you said, because if she was a character, of course I would, feel empathetic for her, but because I'm me, I'm oh, get over it. So I think you're absolutely right. When I write about it, it's a way of looking at it from, a helicopter view, like you said.
And this is why I love these interviews personally, because this is something I'm going to take into the world and I'm going to use for myself, and maybe even in my journaling, which I'm not doing on a daily basis, but it's a couple times a week. I think it's going to be really important to have that, Josh is a character and he did this, he did that. And then there's there's also that element of when I tell people, kids, students, youth, I speak at a lot of colleges, and it's well, I know you're saying that to yourself in your head, but what if a friend came to you and told you they were dealing with that? Would it be okay that they spoke to themselves like that? Of course not. And so there's that element to it as well, when you're kind of writing yourself as a character and kind of pulling away from it with some perspective. So grateful for that. Psychosis, depression, anxiety. A lot of people see these as liabilities in one's life. Whether that's you're less than, or I wish I was not dealing with this so I could do X, Y, or Z, or whatever it is. A lot of times it's seen as a liability. And I see these things, I see my depression. It can be a liability, but can also be an asset. It can also push me to do things and go places and develop empathy and this and that. So, So these things that you have lived with and are living with and managing, we know some of the negativity. We know some of I had to quit school for a little bit and XYZ. But how do you think these obstacles of having to live with these conditions, how do you think, if at all, how do you think they've changed your life for the better?
I think, as someone who, I have schizoaffective disorder, so it's this weird in-between between schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. And, both of those, when you think bipolar disorder, a lot of people think of angry, moody, and when you think of schizophrenia, you think, I don't know, not generally positive things. And because both of those illnesses are associated with me, or I sort of represent them, especially online and when I write, it pushes me to want to succeed more than before. Like, I have social anxiety, and I didn't want to get a job. I just wanted to, I just wanted to be self-employed, be a freelancer. But because of my illness, it pushes me to be more, to get out of my comfort zone and be a positive example for those who are struggling. Because I have a lot of friends online who have schizoaffective disorder, and they can't work right now. They're having active hallucinations. And knowing that I don't have active hallucinations anymore and, like, appreciating where I am pushes me to get that job and enroll in those classes and move out and just be a really good role model. Because I want people who know that I have mental illness, I want them to be like, oh, she's a nice person. She's successful. I want the people around me to be able to say, I know someone with mental illness, and they're, just like everyone else. They're a nice person. I want to be a good example.
I love that. You're using it to be a beacon for other people. And even before that, you say pushes you. And I think that's what mine does for me in certain senses. And it stretches me. I don't know what it's like to live without it, right? So if I have it, this is like the cards that we've been dealt, right? So all I know is that people say folks with depression or folks with schizoaffective or whatever the condition is can't do this or that. And I say we can. And I'm doing it. And so I think that's really important, like really stretching yourself as a person, which is great, which is what we need from you, because the more that you do that, the more that we also can learn from you. And also the role model piece. I mean, I see that for myself as well, because I can be a little bit off the wall sometimes, and I got to rein myself in. And it is what it is, But at the end of the day, I want people to say, hey, that person has mental illness. Oh my goodness, I would have never known. You don't look like you have mental illness, or whatever it is that people say. But it's not like, oh, I feel so bad for you, or oh, that's so dark and depressing, or whatever. Like, no, this is like a quote unquote normal, whatever normal means, and they're successful and living a good life. And I guess they have like skeletons in their closet just like the rest of us, but we connect more than we disconnect. So I think we're kind of very similar in that sense, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I try to be understanding when people say, oh, you have schizophrenia, really? Or if they say, I didn't know, like, it's a little offensive if they're like, well, you have schizophrenia, like I'm supposed to look a certain way, or schizophrenics are supposed to look a certain way, or people with mood disorders. And I just try not to be so angry anymore. I just try to just let it roll off my back, and I'm just, they don't know. I didn't know before I was diagnosed. I would have said the same thing. Mm-hmm. So that's been something I've really learned in the past year or so.
I like that. I think that's a good way to move forward, because if we're constantly walking around angry, that's a huge burden to carry. And it also doesn't help us connect to folks who don't, because we need more non-affected allies, people who are neither loving or living with loving someone or living with a mental illness. We need people who aren't part of this, or who aren't, so they can be part of the movement and kind of, it's kind of like being a straight ally in the LGBT movement in a sense, like you,
yeah.
And we need that. We need more straight allies.
Definitely.
And with all these illnesses and things that are going on in your world, I'm sure people said that there were things that you couldn't do. And so I want to know, what was like one thing that people said or somebody said that you couldn't do because of this? And did you do it anyway? How did you do it? How did you make this impossible into a possibility?
Well, when I first got out of the hospital in 2015, I had to move back in with my parents, and the medication was making me sleep all day, and I was hallucinating and having delusions. I mean, at one point, I thought my boyfriend was the devil. It was just intense delusions, and the doctor said, you really need to get on disability. You're not going to be able to ever have a job, or if you move out, you're going to have people living with you to help you. And, I'm returning to school in the fall, and I've already taken a few classes last spring. And I have a job. You know, I am a freelancer and social media manager, but I'm looking for another part-time job on top of that. And I do live on my own, so I think I, did turn an impossible into a possible.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors didn't want me to get my hopes up, but I just took it as a challenge. You know, I was so young, I wasn't going to let that happen. Or I am so young. I'm not going to let that be my life sentence.
No, it's a part of you. It's not, it isn't you. It's a part of you. And I think those doctors, I think putting it nicely, that's probably the nicest thing we could say is that they were trying to manage your expectations, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But I think it's also important for us to get in front of those doctors and say, hey, give some hope to the next person that walks in the door because this is what I got going on. So I think, sprinkling some of that hope is important. But look at you keeping up the hustle, taking some classes, moving out, and social media manager, and looking for a part-time job. That doesn't sound like disability to me. It's definitely not.
Yeah, so. and times when I do feel bad that I don't have a part-time job on top of, my self-employment, I think about one of my friends who has the same illness as me, and she's has to use a wheelchair half the time because her meds are so sedating. She can't walk and she has seizures. And I just think, I could be like that, or I could be how I was last summer when I was sleeping all day and I couldn't wake up because my medicine sedated me so much. And, I've come so far in it. I'm just really thankful.
Yeah. There's an element of gratitude there, which is just an important way to live life in general. Anyway, mm-hmm. That's brilliant. Now, August, I want to slow things. Actually, I want to quicken things up, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to have some fun. And not that we already haven't been having fun, but we can just kind of let loose here. I don't know if I sent this to you, but I want to do a little quick fire round. And this is just fun questions to kind of pull us out of the topic a little bit, or the topic at hand. And just for our listeners to get to know you a little better. We'll just have fun with this. And there's no right or wrong. So August, so what is your favorite word?
Right.
W-R-I-T? Yes. Yeah. Right. As in an instruction. I like it. Write and writing is, it's been a lifesaver for me, for sure. I like
me
that.
Too. Yeah, it's a way of life.
What is your least favorite word?
I'd say math.
Math? I love it. That makes me.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay at math, but like the consensus on the show so far has been the word no, hate, and moist. And you say math, and I love that we have variety now.
Yeah, people hate the word moist. It doesn't bother me, but I have a few friends who get so mad if I say it.
I don't even want to say use it in a sentence. It's a weird word. I'm middle of the road on it, but math. I like that. We need to like meme that or something, like August and math. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Okie doke. All right. So if somebody made a movie of your life, who would play the title role other than you?
I think Kristen Stewart.
Yeah. Okay. The Twilight girl. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody says I look like her, and she's kind of like not over the top friendly, and I'm kind of like introverted and withdrawn, and we kind of have the same style.
Fair enough. You were both mean and no, I'm kidding. You're fine. I don't know Kristen Stewart. I can't speak to that. She doesn't look the nicest, but maybe she'll come on the show at some point and prove us all wrong. I have no idea.
I think she's nice. She just doesn't like doing interviews and stuff or something.
Probably, yeah.
But I mean, like, I like her style, and I like, I don't know. People say I look like her mostly. That's why.
Well, I'd watch The August Story starring Kristen Stewart. I'll put that on my Netflix to watch list. Who or what is your spirit animal?
A turtle.
I like that. That's cool. Introverted, a little bit
slow
snappy.
And steady.
Yeah.
Stinky.
Turtles are.
I'm just kidding. My little sister had a turtle, and it smelled really bad.
Yeah, they do. They do. My daughter had a couple, and they just smelled horrendous. On a nicer level, though, I was in the Cayman Islands last summer with my wife, and we got a chance to swim with some big, giant sea turtles, and they're beautiful. And they look like cartoons almost, like just how majestic they are underwater.
Wow.
So
that
definitely
sounds really cool.
It was a far cry from the little stinky turtles at home. So I think this is our final one. If heaven exists, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say to you as you enter or as you get kicked out?
Gosh.
It'd be funny if he said, "Oh gosh."
Probably something like "It'll be okay" or "I forgive you" or something like that. Something consoling.
Okay.
Like "It'll be all right. You did fine." Or something like that.
You were mediocre.
Yeah.
Come on in. You weren't the best, you weren't the worst, but you kind of showed up, so we're cool with it.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted like a pat on the back, but with words or something, like "You did okay."
Oh, she tried, bless her heart. God is from the South of the United States. Bless her heart. So that's the end of the quickfire round. But August, what does the next 6 months to a year look like for you? What does the future hold? School, life, work, business? What does that look like for you? What do you think that'll look like?
Well, I've written a draft of my book, and it's like it's not even draft 1. It's like draft 0.5. It's like half a draft or something.
Okay.
But when I start school back in the fall, I'm going to start working on it again and adding to it and adding a new point of view. So I'm going to be working on my book, going to school, working, and I'm going to live in Atlanta.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's what it's going to look like, just writing and working and going to school.
I dig it. That's exciting. I'm excited when the book comes along more. I'm excited about reading it and hearing more about it. And that's a very exciting 6 months to a year. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Moving out, doing your thing in Atlanta. If folks want to check out your work, get in touch, say hello, find out more about what you got going on, what's the best way for folks to do that?
You can just go to my blog. It's survivalisatalent.com. Just one word.
Super duper. Well, August, thank you so very much for joining us today. It was I had a great time, and it was really nice to learn more from you and learn more about you. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the I'm Possible Project show with Joshua Rivedal and guest August Fisenmeyer. I love sharing stories and how to turn impossible into I'm possible. If you want more inspirational stories, our second and third books are in pre-order right now. Changing Minds, Breaking Stigma, Achieving the Impossible, as well as Lemonade Stand. Both contain powerful stories of overcoming tremendous odds. When life gives you lemons, squeeze, add sugar, and pick up a copy of The I'm Possible Project. www.IamPossibleProject.com/pre-order. Thank you so much for tuning in. You're more than a community. You're part of the I'm Possible family. Until next time, sending you lots of love.